YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Guys, today we have a really important topic to talk about. This is something that could quite possibly change the scope of professional bass fishing. And it's a sport that I love, a sport that I've dedicated truly my life to, and I don't really like the direction we're headed right now. And we're talking about forward-facing sonar. We're talking about using that particular type of sonar to catch and find bass. Now, I'm gonna tell you, there's been a lot of smoke this week about forward-facing sonar from some pretty big-name guys. Kevin Van Dam has a clip out there from Bass University. Gerald Swindle made a couple posts about it. And he was more so asking the fans' point of view on it, and I get that too. And he really didn't give an opinion on it one way or another. Um, I've seen some stuff from like Zach Burge. Obviously, Randy Blockett's been posting all kinds of crap about it, and he has been forever. He is obviously one of the main people against forward-facing sonar. And but there was one particular post that really stood out to me, and it was by Brian Latimer. And Brian is a really good friend of mine. I feel like he really takes that step back and looks at things from the big picture very well. And I've always had a lot of respect for him, a ton of respect for him actually. But he basically, I'm gonna put the post right here so you can see it. But basically, he's saying pro anglers, try to make rules based off of their own personal agendas, and a lot of anglers are like that. And a lot of people don't know, but I was part of, from you could say ringleader, you could say whatever you want to say, but during the whole FLW, during the FLW days, we had a big protest going, and I was kind of the person that started that. I had a couple buddies of mine that fished the tour at the time. I'm not going to name them because it wasn't a big thing that we flashed out in public. We really were just trying to work on payouts and things like that. And I really believe that there are anglers out there that are trying to do the best for everybody. They're looking at the big picture. They are those guys that step back and say, okay, I can look at this from a bunch of different points of view, and I'm not going to get so stubborn that this is the only way or the highway. And that was one thing that we really took into consideration when we did the whole protest of FLW was we didn't really give a crap about the public's opinion on it. No offense, I know some of you are watching. But it was more of we were trying to adjust payouts and things like that that were directly affecting the anglers and trying to make it better and trying to figure out where the money was going. And so it was really a big step in the right direction for the anglers to have a voice to try to figure out how to go up against these big corporate companies and not get completely taken advantage of. So, I do think that there are some really great people out there that have the right mindset, but the problem that we have right now is forward facing sonar. And I can kind of compare it to a bunch of different things. I was around during the beginning of the umbrella rig. Paul Elias. It was Paul Elias that won there at Gunnersville with it, and it kind of created this craze. And long story short, we went into the next season, and me and my traveling partner at the time, Zach Caudle, we were fishing the FLW tour, and I'm telling you guys, it was so weird. You would show up to these bodies of water, and instead of just going out there and practicing, in the back of your mind the whole time, you're like, do I just need to go every day and throw the umbrella rig all day long? And we'd honestly gotten to a point where we would dedicate one full day to just throwing it everywhere and anywhere. And that really sucked. I hated it. That was my least favorite time of probably my entire fishing career was during the umbrella rig craze. And it wasn't because it didn't catch them. I mean, I had some unbelievable days with it. I just didn't enjoy it personally. It was just one of those things I did not enjoy. But, we're a few years past that now. And, obviously the umbrella rig, we're starting to learn that it's very situational. But at that particular time when they had not seen it, it was ridiculous. Like, there were so many times you could just take it out there, throw it out in the middle of the lake, and catch fish all the time. And now, that fish have seen it so many times and so much, I do think it's kind of lost a little bit of its drawing power as it had before. But one thing that I didn't agree with then, and I still don't agree with now, is the pure ban of the umbrella rig. I do like the way that FLW, now MLF, adjusted that rule for the AAA level, like the the Toyota series, Costas, whatever you want to call them. I like how they did it. It was like 5 wires. I think it was like 5 wires, 5 blades, 3 hooks. And it made it really cut and dry. This is your limit. You can go up to this limit, but you can't go past this limit. And I really like that. And I don't think that that's a bad thing necessarily, because you're not taking it away necessarily. You're not saying, okay, this is just so good that we got to take it out completely. We got to stop this advancement in our fishing because people don't like it. Because that ultimately, there were some guys that didn't like it. They were completely against it, and that's why it got banned. There were some of the right pro anglers that didn't like it, and it went out of there. We're seeing the same kind of situation with with forward-facing sonar. And while I do agree completely, it is one of these things that, just like the umbrella rig during its heyday, when I go practicing for a professional, when I go practicing for a professional event, whether it be an Open, an Elite, Bass Pro Tour, and I'm not practicing for those, obviously. I fish the Opens. I'm not trying to say I'm some massive pro guy. I'm just saying, when I go fish these tournaments, there are these situations where I run into, and I know the tournament's going to be won on using forward-facing sonar, no questions asked, that I'm like, okay, should I just go dedicate my entire practice to it and go catch them? But I want to compare it to something, okay? So when I get into a sight fishing tournament where I know bed fishing is going to be the way that it's going to be won, or that I believe that's my best chance to catch them, I'm going to dedicate my 5 days or 4 days or 3 days of practice just to go in bed fishing. That's all I'm going to do, all 4 days. Just like if I'm going to flip bushes and I know the bush flipping bite is going to be the best, I'm going to go dedicate every minute I have to flipping bushes to find every stretch that I can, every bait that I can figure out how to get a bite on. I'm going to go do that. If I get on a ledge bite and I'm like, man, this ledge fishing thing is the deal, I'll go graph ledges for 5 straight days. You see where I'm going with that? It's literally no different in my eyes as if I go into a tournament saying, hey, I need to go dedicate all 5 days to forward-facing sonar in this particular event because I think this is how it's going to be won, or my best chance to do well. Taking forward-facing sonar away, let's just say like completely accident, saying you can't have it in professional tournaments, Opens, Bass Elites, the MLF Invitationals, Bass Pro Tour, no longer allowed to have it. I think that's a grave mistake. I really do. Do I think there needs to be a limit? Absolutely. But I think there needs to be a limit on a lot of things. We have a length limit on rods. We have a length limit on boats. We have limits on horsepower. We have limits on all of these things. We have limits on, like the Bass Opens. You're not allowed to have 2 different baits on a rig. You can't use a double fluke rig just like you can't use an umbrella rig. There is limits as to what we can use. But you can still use things. I can still go throw a jerkbait. I can still go throw a topwater. I can still go throw a baby Z2. I can throw whatever. I can throw a big worm. It doesn't matter. My big question is, where does it stop? And not necessarily where does the technology stop, but where do we draw the line on how we're going to kill ourselves here? I actually saw a post by David Mullins. And he said that everybody's so worried about forward-facing sonar, and he's worried about how we can get a better payout. And I couldn't agree more, because to me, anglers, all of us pro anglers, I guess you could exclude me there, but all of us anglers, we're sitting here fighting against ourselves here. Like, this is ridiculous. We're sitting here trying to limit ourselves catching bass, but not worried about our cash payouts. I'm going to tell you right now, I fish the Bassmaster Opens. They pay 40 places, okay? 40 places out of 225 people. I don't have the math right now, but that's pretty bad percentages, okay? Like, there's not a very high percentage chance of you cashing a check. I want to say it's like, what, 18% or something like that? Whereas there's people that get payouts of like 40, 50, 60%. It is terrible how far down they pay in the Bassmaster Opens. I would much rather spend my time trying to figure out how to pay down in the Opens than to talk about this crap. Do I think there needs to be a limit? Absolutely. Do I think there needs to be one forward-facing sonar unit on your boat? Let's just say one live scope, one active target? Sure. I'm good with limiting it to one, okay? But where do you draw the line on, okay, well, we're not allowed to use forward-facing sonar, but you can have the Humminbird 360. Is that fair? No, it's not. Not at all. I just don't know where do you say you're not allowed to use side image anymore. Are you not allowed to use side image in 360 and forward-facing sonar? Can you not use all three and all you can use is 2D and mapping? There comes a point where anglers, we're hurting ourselves because we're saying, okay, let's just get rid of everything we've known for the last 20 years. And let's just throw that all out the window to benefit a couple of guys that haven't adjusted with the times. Let's change everything just for that. And that's not the way we do this, guys. Let's be smart here. Should we limit it to one forward-facing sonar? Sure. Can you have 360? Sure. But, here's the big but. Are we getting out of hand on how many units we put on a boat? Absolutely. I think that's where the biggest question mark is. Should we have the availability to put 6 units on our boat? No. We don't need 6 units. Right now, a lot of guys need more than that because they're running 5 active targets and all these other... I mean, I don't even know how people do it. I really don't. And I might get roasted in the comments here, but there's going to be guys that say, well, it's just a tool, you just got to use it. And I agree, but there needs to be a limit as to how many you can have. My personal opinion is you don't need more than 4 graphs on your boat, truly. Let's just say, for instance, you have 4 graphs. You have 2 on the back, 2 on the front. That is the limit. That is the rule that should be in place. Okay, so let's say we have this particular rule. And the guy says, you know what? I want to put a 360 on the front and I want to put a live scope. Or I want to put an active target. If he does that, his 2 units are taken because he's going to have his 360 on one unit. He's going to have his forward-facing sonar on the other unit. He's not going to have another one for mapping and regular sonar or anything like that. He's going to have these 2 units. So you kind of get to pick and choose what you're going to do. Do I put an active target and a map and 2D sonar? You know, you kind of get to play with that. But there needs to be a limit on how many units we put on a boat. And maybe they just make it to where you only have 2 units, one on the back, one on the front. The only thing I would urge on that is to pay attention to one thing. When we're out there on the water, let's say, for instance, you have a unit go down and you've got 4 units. If I have 1 unit go down on the front, I still have that secondary unit to use in case something goes wrong. The exact same thing on the back. What if I'm running 2 units, both units mess up, and I'm out there in the middle of the lake and I can't, you know, let's say I'm in the middle of Lake Erie and I can't find my way back. That's an issue. So I know it's kind of an outlandish issue, but it's something that we still need to take into consideration. Pro anglers, please listen to when I say this, and I know you probably won't even watch it, and you probably don't care, and you've already made your opinion and all that stuff. There needs to be a limit on live scopes and forward-facing sonar, active targets, and all that stuff, how many you have on your boat. There needs to be a limit on units. We do not need to ban this. This is not the right direction. It's never good to ban things unless they are just so ridiculous or something that's bad for the sport. If we ever start going backwards, we're never going to move forward. Trust me on that. If we go backwards, we're never going to move forward. There's been advancements in literally every facet of bass fishing, from bass boats, fuel economy on Mercury motors, rods and reels. Lew's makes some fantastic rods and reels. You can cast further, feel better. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. Baits have gotten better. Everything has gotten better. We can't move backwards, though. You got to understand that. If you can't get on the forward-facing sonar train, don't use it. And that's just a matter of fact. Has fishing changed since it's come out? Absolutely. But the reality is the cat's out of the bag at this point. I don't believe it's smart on our end to go backwards. I just don't. And maybe Bass comes out with a rule. Maybe Major League Fishing comes out with a rule that bans forward-facing sonar. But I would argue to say that side imaging, that 360, that all these other technologies would have to have a limit as well, because you can't limit one and not limit the others, because they are aiming out. I mean, you're looking side imaging. It is truly looking out in both directions. 360 is looking around your boat. Where do we draw that line? And I really think, and I urge people at Bass and Major League Fishing to really take this serious. And I urge the anglers, like, y'all are fighting each other over this. Like, I don't understand you right now. Like, you are trying to hurt each other because you're either good at it or you're not good at it. Have we always been in that situation? There's been people that get mad, that used to get so mad at sight fishermen. And there's still guys that get mad at sight fishermen because they could go do it better than everybody else. And they're like, we don't need to bed fish because we don't need to harm, fish that are on beds, blah, blah, blah. When the same guy is going to the bank throwing a Cinco and catching 50 fish and saying, oh, look what I did. You're literally doing the same thing. I'm just picking and choosing which one I want to go catch. The point is, if you want to get really good at something, no matter what it is, you got to go out there and do it all the time and get good at it. Am I the biggest fan of forward-facing sonar? I'm not. Actually, I'm really not. I actually kind of low-key hate it. I really do. And the reason I don't like it is because it does take away from basically everything I've ever learned in bass fishing. I went fishing with a buddy of mine the other day, and it was a grass lake. And this lake is beautiful. It has some of the best hydro on the lake, or in this whole area. And I'm just looking up there and like, man, I really want to go up there and punch that mat. Or I want to go up there and throw a big worm. And in my mind, I'm like, man, that point right there is going to be good. This drain, it's got scattered grass. It looks great. You know what we did all day? We went out there and used active target all day. And we caught the crap out of them. I mean, caught the snot out of them. And I'm just like, dang, I really don't want to do this. I want to go up there. But I made the choice to go out there and learn how to get better with forward-facing sonar. And the reality is there's going to be lakes and there's going to be situations where you got to do things that are uncomfortable to do well. But you get to make that choice. You don't have to go do it if you don't want to. I don't have to go learn how to use forward-facing sonar. But I also know the harsh reality is that it is the future of bass fishing. Whether we like it or not, the cat is out of the bag. And the worst thing that I can hear is all these companies, or all these people saying, well, the reason they're not ever going to get rid of it is because of the money. Guys, the damage is done. Everybody knows about it. Everybody has access to it. Everybody can get it at this point. Just because the upper level tournament angler possibly wouldn't have it, doesn't mean that every other person in the country might not have one and use it every single day. That's the reality. So, will these depth finder companies stop sponsoring Bass MLF? Absolutely not. Because guess what? I own a TV show. I know how commercials work. Humminbird, Lowrance, Garmin, all these depth finder companies, they're still going to be sponsoring these companies, and they're still going to be running ads about Active Target, about Live Scope. It don't matter if the pro anglers have them. And anglers, you got to realize you are hurting yourself significantly if you ban this. Know that up front. You're hurting yourself. We are taking the wrong step. That's my opinion. Like it or not, that's just what it is. We need to limit the amount of units on the boat. We need to limit the amount of transducers on the boat. Bottom line, end of story. That's my opinion. Tell me what you think in the comments below. I might get roasted. People might just completely disagree with me. I would rather put all of our emphasis on trying to fix payouts, try to fix the money, so that we all have a fair fighting chance. And there we have it. Hope y'all enjoyed today. I'll try to post more videos. I know I've been sucking lately. Had a lot going on. I know y'all have too. So we'll see y'all in the next one.